Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forecasting Frenzy, Premonition or Precision. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Anthony James, and I'll be moderating our discussion. Today, we'll be exploring whether strategic sales forecasting is an educated guess or a precision science, featuring insights into some cutting-edge methodologies. This is crucial for sales leaders aiming to optimize future sales performance and decision-making. Before we dive in, for everybody watching online, please drop your questions into the chat, and at the end, our fabulous speakers will try and answer as many of them as they can. So let's uncover the truth behind effective sales forecasting. Today, we have three fantastic speakers. I'll let them introduce themselves to you. So firstly, over to you, Vlad.
Thank you, Anthony, and thanks for having me. I'm Vlad, Vlad Voskresensky. I'm a co-founder of a company called Revenue Grid, and I'm in a sales automation business for such a long time, since 2005, that I should say that I can feel ashamed that sales technology is not at that level where it should be. I feel responsible for that. So we'll be happy to take that discussion. I've been for a long time a CEO of that company, and I was very close to sales. So not only I was participating in the developing of various sales technologies, but I have seen a lot working with sales leaders and being sales leader myself. So yeah.
Excellent. Some sales questions, I'm sure, from the floor coming to you, Vlad. Julia.
Hi, my name is Julia, and I'm CEO of Innovation Park, and we are focusing on multi-channel marketing and revenue optimization for SaaS companies and B2B companies.
Excellent. And Cliff.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cliff Simon. I'm the CRO over at Carabiner Group. We help companies by providing RevOps as a service. So get to see a lot of different things from that particular angle. And my background is doing go-to-market for companies, mostly mid-market and enterprise for about the last 2 decades.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, why don't we get into our chat? And again, anybody and everybody who's listening, please feel free to drop your questions into the chat. If you've got specific questions for any of our speakers, mention their name and we'll direct that to them. So, Cliff, why don't we kick off with the RevOps area? One of the questions I've really been thinking about is how do you strike that balance between the data-driven forecasting and that instinctive decision making that often comes from the years of experience working in the space?
So I think there's like that in-between space, right? We all want to use tools, whether it's Gong or Revenue Grid or Epsta or Clary, whatever, right? From a revenue intelligence perspective, to use these algorithms to say, okay, this is what a good deal looks like. This is how that's architected. This is that blueprint from stage to stage to stage across multiple personas, across segments, verticals, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, right, there's still a human element to this. People are buying from people, and intuition does play a pretty strong part into understanding whether or not something may or may not happen, making sure that you're getting the right stakeholders involved. So I think technology is a really good assister. It's something that helps you maybe see around some blind spots that you might have missed because you're doing this all the time, or we're all just really busy people. At the same time, like that human touch and being able to know that you can leverage a relationship or a particular soft point that you're not going to find in the data is really important.
Vlad, Julia, have you got any perspective on that?
I agree with what Cliff said. I may have kind of bolder message or statement here. I would say that the only reason why forecasting exists is because pipelining never did its job right and correct. Okay, because if pipeline would work, we can just take the figure out of our pipeline, prorate it, and say this is what I'm going to make at the end of a period, at the end of a quarter or a year. But it doesn't work that way. So on top of the pipeline process, which never tells us where we're going to be, we had to invent and now conduct forecasting process, which is literally cleansing the pipeline and trying to come up to the real figure, which my gut feeling or technology or knowledge or experience tells me we will get from this pipeline, which I see in my CRM system. So the problem is here. The answer to that and how to solve the problem, it's improving by all the aspects, if you would. Yes, there's a human factor being involved, but also technology can help a lot with that, because to me, this magic glue, if you would, or lubrication, I should say, in current forecasting process, it's the knowledge and the facts. Literally, all of the sales leaders, what they do, trying to come up to the more precise forecasts, they are trying to get the knowledge either from CRM or from sales reps, so then they can revalidate the status of opportunity or the whole pipeline, and then say like, okay, I trust it or I do not. And then we become to the final number. So the better knowledge you have, which is technically facts which are all around, we're just not collecting them in the right way and not analyzing them in the right way. This is this potential lubrication for much better forecasting process, and technology can definitely help here.
Yeah, I would like to add that for me, from marketing perspective, I think simplicity and like clarity of communication to look at the actual results that the sales presenting is crucial for both optimizing and scaling big campaigns, big budget campaigns, because delay or lack of clarity in such presentation can cost a lot of money. For example, like right now we're running a couple of campaigns where we are targeting several different audiences, and we need to, as soon as possible, ideally instantly, be able to see how qualification process is going, how follow-up process is going, and have like numbers, like at which numbers these leads converting in sales teams. So if we can see that clarity, I think from my perspective, that's the most important.
I mean, it raises that whole question as well of, you can't not open a web page or turn a page in a newspaper and read something about AI. So what's your feeling about AI being that help or hindrance to the forecasting space?
Well, my personal opinion is that AI, it's not a silver bullet, okay, but it's a big helper, in a sense that where it can help, unlike human being, when we get some knowledge and we have some experience, we may forget, okay? AI will never forget. Now, current level of technology allows us to utilize this ability of not forgetting the things in AI, package it in the right way that it starts to come up with the right observations and maybe even actions for us. So here where I think AI can help. If we feed all of the facts and knowledge in the right way to Gen AI or maybe to ML, it can provide the feedback, which then we rely on as real facts when we do forecasting. And again, it will never forget what has happened in the past. It will always rely on this. So this is where I think AI can help. Again, it's not a silver bullet. It would not substitute this, the beauty of forecasting process when there is always a human touch. Do I believe or not that this happens, and a bit of a risk balancing.
Cliff, have you got a perspective on it?
Piece in there too. Yeah, I think there's a piece in there too, right? The reason forecasting and pipeline reviews and all these things are so important is because people just treat pipeline for the sake of having pipeline coverage, right? Reps were afraid for their jobs, and AI sort of helps us cut through the noise and say these are the things that actually are worth going after and closing. I think as an industry, we need to come back and like take a look in the mirror and say we only need to service a very specific ICP and not try to be everything to everyone. Right? If you really focus on that, you're going to have better forecast calls. You're going to have better client alignment. You're going to have better client satisfaction. Churn's going to go down. So there's a lot of things that are systemic because of the way that we run go-to-market, as opposed to all these things that we're trying to build to fix, again, these symptoms and not the actual disease.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And it's, you talk about that forecasting and the salespeople. I know I've been one of these people, being often very overly optimistic. I remember being in sales very early in my career, being overly optimistic about the opportunities. But maybe what we can do is just switch up a little bit and sort of outline some of the common pitfalls that sales teams and salespeople face, and some of the things that you've seen that are those common pitfalls, and how they can be avoided to maybe ensure that more accurate prediction in your pipeline. Vlad, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, with pleasure. So if I would peel it like an onion, I think the very first question every sales leader have looking at the pipeline is, or at the particular deal, will this deal even close? And there are, I'm ready to bet my money. Every company in the world would have deals in the pipeline which will never going to close, but salespeople still keep them there. They drag from period to period, etc. So just this scan of a pipeline cleans this nicely. So the first question and the first pitfall would be like, hey, is this deal even real? Or we should just forget about that. Second question, will the deal be closed in a predicted period or not? Salespeople are saying that they're going to close it this quarter. In reality, no, it's not. It's going to slip to the next one. And there are reasons for this. And we can discuss how to identify those reasons. But anyway, so that's the second question, this period or next period. Third question, what the real stage, if you would. Yeah, what real stage this deal has. In CRM, it's stated in that stage, but given on actual level of engagement, on action items which are already done and yet outstanding, what the real stage of a deal, so I can at least prorate my pipeline. And the fourth question, and I have only four, and the fourth question I'm always asking is what real amount we're going to close the deal with. Sales reps are famous for putting larger amounts unless they're being very tightly controlled. So you want to challenge that amount and say, yeah, you think you're going to close it for X, but it's actually a fraction of X. So these four, and like one by one, peeling onion to the root of it, if you would, helps you to understand better forecasting.
There's some things in that, Vlad, in those four really good areas that you peel back for us, where some practical tips maybe where they can avoid those issues and make sure they drive towards those more accurate predictions.
Yeah, again, it's always data. I truly believe that all this should be data driven. Where do we get the data and where do we get the knowledge? It's a question. I may have an amazing a report or dashboard for the best in class revenue intelligence platform, and I don't need anything. I'm just opening this in C and trust the data, or I don't have anything, and then I have to go to the pipeline room and interrogate my sales rep, tell me what's really going on. So collecting the data, what was the recent engagement, when was it, what was exchanged, mirroring, or not mirroring, but projecting this on an expected timeline of your typical deal, what action items you would need to do to be able to close this, and was those things already happening or not, helps you a lot. Like if you have to go through POC, did you start that POC? If you have to go through InfoSec approval, did you even apply for that? I mean, things like this, negotiation. Every company knows its sales cycle, so you really need to kind of project existing deals on your typical timeline and understand where is it. So these are the major things. And again, only engagements, real engagements, are telling you the truth. The problem with that, though, and it's another topic, we challenge our sales reps or ask them so many questions. Help me to understand those details, that they start to hate the whole forecasting process because of it, because it does zero value for them. They have to come to pipeline discussions or forecasting discussions to confess, to report, to explain. Like if technology can eliminate that, and we can reinvent forecasting meetings for the meaningful discussions, what do we do to get better results versus trying to understand what we can expect, that would be another level of a discussion. But yeah, but fundamental pieces are very, very easy yet very complex, which is what's really going on. That's it.
Yeah, I think that topic of confession during sales meetings could be a really interesting other topic. I mean, it raises that whole area of that impact on their performance and their morale as well moving forward as salespeople. And as you said quite rightly, Vlad, hating going to those sales review meetings because it is like that confession.
Completely agreed. In fact, I think technology can help here as well. It's not an enemy of sales reps. Technology can take it from their shoulders. So then they should not report. They should not manually enter data in CRM. They should not manually prep or describe what's the real status of opportunity or retell verbally. A technology can really do it for them. Modern technology is already at that level. So I think it's a huge helper to elevate the whole experience of forecasting process.
Julia, any pitfalls you see within sales teams or impact on performance that could be avoided?
Yes. So far, I'm actually just seeing the positive results because I'm seeing like the bad sales reps are being discovered much faster because it's very clear, like they're not going through specific touch points, not really following the procedure for whatever qualification or the deal close. And like when you lay the cards on the table, it's becoming obvious you either did it or didn't. So I think overall for the companies, it's an advantage. And for salespeople, I think there are also massive opportunities to learn, like, because if you actually have the tools, like, what tools you need to use, it's I think it's relevantly easier also to become good at it, so you don't have to reinvent yourself all the time.
So it's more of a learning experience rather than a watch out, we're coming for you, and you're going to be exposed.
Yeah, but also you can, for good salespeople, it's also good to demonstrate, like, look, like I did all these things. This is my conversion rate, and like, just following your. I think it's also becoming encouraging for good salespeople as well to just continue instantly kind of checking their process instead of, again, like manually. I remember like the days when we used to manually adding the numbers into the spreadsheets and all that stuff to calculate whatever we're able to see right now instantly.
Yeah, and that brings back the whole, AI layer as well across that data modeling, which just takes some of that uncertainty away. Would you see that, Cliff? Would you agree with that?
The idea here is that we can use technology to sort of start mapping out what it looks like to be best in class, right? We know that the majority of the deals that are being done today are being performed and executed by 17-ish% of the sales force that exists. So how do you take those data models, understand what good looks like on a deal, and then start driving enablement for the other 83% to drive those D's and C's to become C's, B's, and hopefully some A's. I think that's where this really kicks in, right? It's hard to ramp. It's hard to hire new people. But if you can start driving enablement of the people that you already have and get them to be more successful so that you can start driving a lower CAC or a better LTV, overall better margins as a business, I think that's something that this unlocks for a lot of companies.
Yeah, I think that raises a very interesting additional point, that it's not really just the salespeople within your organization that are responsible for this. It's really everybody within the organization being responsible for sales. I'm wondering, Julia, from a marketing team contribution, you come very strongly from that space. What's their impact on helping with reliable revenue forecasting, while also keeping the creativity that you want from your marketing teams and their marketing campaigns?
Yes, in terms of revenue forecasting, I've seen like more and more tools that are able to, like, some of the most recent progress that I've seen that I've been wanting to see for quite some time is actually seeing the performance of multiple channels simultaneously for a single company. Let's say one company is running 5 marketing channels, and they have various levels of success at various periods of the year. And predicting that in advance, or even monitoring it in the real time, and trying to see, like, making decisions how we're going to be moving leads and contacts from one channel to the other one is really difficult without having specific tools. So I think from my standpoint, I think this is like the biggest progress right now in terms of what companies are being able to do. Because I think this is like number one problem for scale ups and medium-sized enterprises is actually this lost revenue, when people are forgetting about, like, the fact that CAC gets diluted when you have multiple channels, with some of them being performing more poor. And instead of layering additional layers of marketing, why don't we dive in and see what's under the hood, how we can optimize it, move things around, improve performance that way.
Yeah, it's really creating that cohesive and accurate prediction model, isn't it, across all the data points that you're getting?
Yes.
Vlad, what's your perspective on that?
I completely agree with Julia. I want to add that there's already a lot of technology in marketing automation which helps forecasting directly or indirectly by evaluating the quality of leads automatically and decide if it's real ICP or not and who you need to pay attention to. Analyze the level of engagement of that lead and how realistic that MQL becomes an SQL, etc., based on engagement and responses and everything. So this is already existing on the market and it's accessible. We can entertain and hire those systems if you would. But I think the future in that space looks even brighter because with Gen AI development, we can really reach to, well, okay, let me step back. What's the dream of any marketer? Reach out to more ICPs, engage with them better, do it on scale, right?
Exactly.
AI can respond to all three. If you are able to explain what your ICP is, Gen AI can generate for you those prospects, and then you next step for you to engage. Again, Gen AI can help you to engage with them with a very personalized way, and scale is being answered right there. So I think the future is even brighter. But even today, you may get a lot from this myriad of marketing automation vendors which are existing on the market.
Cliff, what are you seeing in this space?
I think the thing that excites me is now that AI is here and everyone's developing so much faster, that we're seeing newer, really interesting pieces of technology come forward. And I wonder if we're going to see a move away from the platform space as people continue to build more point solutions again. I don't know, I feel like everything's sort of cyclical. Over the last few years, it was like, all right, how do I get to a platform? How do I get away from per user and go to a platform fee? And I wonder if we're going to see the reverse of that.
Mm.
I also want to address the part of your question about creativity, right?
Mhm,
Because this is
mhm.
like I see both sides of the coin essentially. So like some people abuse AI, of course. I've seen, unfortunately, some big businesses, I mean, like pretty big businesses, like tens of millions worth of revenue, going completely down out of business because abusing AI. Like this is a fact. And it's unfortunate because they jumped the ship before they actually made wise decisions. But this is happening in the world. At the same time, some businesses do understand that AI tools essentially there for them to cut their time going from the initial draft for, let's say, an ad creative to this nice polished gem that the ICP is going to be responding. So it does not actually remove the copywriter or whoever creative director that is in charge of that creative, but it allows them, again, as Vlad was saying, to scale, right? Like it brings the scale much closer to the surface. So if it used to take people 8 hours to work on like one article or one creative, now it's going to take them 1 hour. And to me, that's amazing.
Roger that. I've seen a couple of very cool startups which are right now working on an interesting aspect of reaching on scale, which is getting the data about targets from open sources, meaning LinkedIn, Google, whatever, and then using AI target the message, the engagement message, using the news and the data we can collect. It sounds very doable having the technology around, which does amazing things already. But it's not completely relying on AI. It's not like I don't need LDRs, SDRs because AI can substitute my people. No, it's helping them to target their ICPs with better engagement and with more precision, and help them to scale because the responses will hopefully be better. So I think we're going to see. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of vendors which are successful in small pieces, and then will it evolve back to a platform offering? Back to what Cliff was saying, hard to say, but I'm sure we'll see very bright, shiny startups here and there automating some pieces of the process for sure.
Well, it goes back to like the innovators dilemma, right? The people that are coming in today don't have as much to overcome from moving left to right. They should naturally have the ability to offer things directly to the market as to what the market wants today versus folks that have to pivot an entire cruise ship, right?
Yeah, very, very well said. I mean, it is interesting with not only all the platforms and the technologies, but also the people across our organizations in every facet and aspect of what they do. Do you think, and Julia, to your earlier point, can we expect to see some of that harmony coming to these organizations and those tens of millions of companies not going down because they're taking that wrong path?
I think, of course, as usually, it's impossible to achieve perfect harmony, and the companies will still, rise and go down regardless of the technology they use, because technology and marketing itself is like yeast. So if you add the yeast to an unedible poisonous substance, it's just going to create more of it, right? If you add it to a good dough, it's going to become a good, nice bread. So whoever created that thing, just the yeast itself is not going to replace. So, and the decisions are still going to be made by, the CEO or the founders of the companies. And if those decisions are poor, this is going to show as well. So you can work towards harmony. You can, but it's always a constant process of optimizing and aligning things, and it needs to come. It can. Technology can be supporting the people in this, but it needs to come from the initiative of the team.
Cliff, what's your feeling on that?
I think the harmony thing is a very interesting point. I think all too often companies have been put together in such a way that there's not that harmony as far as like where they're trying to end up, and the systems and the processes and even the way they've onboarded the team doesn't point to like the ultimate goal of whatever that company is trying to achieve, whether that's the next round of funding, strategic M&A, IPO, whatever it might be, right? So I not to keep harping on the same point, but I think it goes back to this need of being able to look at a business end to end from a go-to-market perspective, and not just thinking about, oh, this is what the seller needs, or this is what marketing needs, or this is what CS needs. How do you drive all of that together? And I think AI becomes a really great equalizer for that, as we start developing and using technology to automate or decrease the friction of the feedback loops between departments and driving voice of the customer up into the different go-to-market channels. There's so much that is available today, to Vlad's point. I'm really excited for what we're going to see over the next 6 months, let alone the next couple of years.
Cliff, that's thrown up a question from the audience watching, and how do we improve that onboarding process? And what have you seen that actually works?
Oh man, well thought out, documented onboarding. I guess it depends on size of company. Loom videos, asynchronous learning, giving people a chance to get thrown into the fire for a bit so they actually have context when they come back with questions.
Julia, what have you seen that really works?
From my perspective, what I've seen, first of all, what I like myself when I'm being onboarded on different softwares, and what we have seen results with when implementing it for customers, is the feeling of back and forward conversation. So when you feel like you're actually talking back and forward to an actual human being, versus like you're just receiving a newsletter, or you're receiving something that is sent to multiple people. So just simple, short, it's not replacing the whole sequences. Of course, we want to make it clear, but incorporating certain messages, be it feedback or introducing new features, sending an email. What do you think about this? What do you think about this, Anthony? We're going to introduce this feature. Hit reply and let me know. And it's much easier to respond this way versus reading like a newsletter. Here's what we're going to do, blah, 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 right? Like nobody going to care about that.
Vlad, very, very quickly, because we're coming to the end of time, but very quickly, what have you seen that works really well, maybe within your own organization?
The most disruptive ideas I've seen are actually very cool, which is watch what other people in that position is already doing or have been doing, and transfer that knowledge better regularly to newbies. And again, it comes back to data foundation. What data do we have collected? What facts we can extract from that data, and how can we share it? But I've seen the companies which are actually learning from what makes the champion, their best sales champions, the champions, what they're doing, and then get that knowledge out of it, entertain AI, or maybe just some technology which can help to organize this in a digestible format, and then regularly share it with the newbies and the rest of the team. That way, you know what's going on. This onboarding is never ending, because back to Cliff's point, you're always trying to make D, B, C, D players improving, preferably to A players. So the best onboarding I've seen is innovative and never ending.
Yeah, great. That actually leads into the next question that's just been asked from the floor as well, which is, technology seems to be moving so fast. What do you guys see what do you see is coming next?
I may probably take it since I'm from a sales technology world. I think bold statement, but the reality will be somehow close to that. If you have routinely repeatable things in the workflow, they will be attacked by the technology. I truly believe that if you repeat something 3 or 5 times in your workflow, you should not be doing that manually. It should be automated. Many of those things were impossible without the proper level of Gen AI. Now it becomes possible, and many vendors are trying, touching the water, trying to swim in that water. Some of them will fail, others will succeed. And those guys will literally replace routinely repeatable parts of a sales process with the technology, which is not only hinting you what to do, but really automatically does it for you. And that's a big helper. Maybe in the far future, it would be a magic platform which does all for us. I just don't think it's going to happen overnight. But those small pieces will be definitely automated and very quickly, because the technology evolves very fast.
Cliff, what do you see coming next?
I think the technology is actually less important than the enablement, right? There's still going to have to be a human interface, and we're going to have to teach people how to write prompts and how to interface with the technology that is being presented to them. I think that's like a huge disparity between what we're seeing with like the millennials and Gen Z. Right? Gen Z hasn't been taught to critically think. They didn't have to go find things in the same way that millennials did when they were growing up, but they've been taught how to parse electronical databases to find information in a very quick way. I see it between even me and my nieces, right? It's a really interesting thing. So we have to find a way to make sure that we're driving adoption of the technology more than I think the technology itself. To make it, because if people aren't using it, we're not seeing the gains because they're not driving the adoption, and we're never going to actually get to the place where we need to be, or the ones that we theorize that we should be at, and we're not going to get the efficiency gains.
Julia, any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from a marketing perspective, what excites me the most is broader and faster availability of solutions and channels for a specific campaign, and the selection of resources for that specific campaign. Let's say I'm coming up with an ICP and a specific offer I want to launch to this audience. I'm going to be able to tap into pretty much on the same screen. I'm going to be able to tap into the specific influencers, specific people in my target audiences who are, well warmed up for this specific offer, and other things and tools that I might be able to use. So I think for me, that's making our job less risky and predictable, and then actually being able to show consistent results.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. I think you've taken some of the frenzy out of forecasting. I certainly feel a little bit calmer after that. I want to thank all of you as we come to the end of our time. Vlad, Julia, and Cliff, thanks for your insights, your knowledge, and your experience. And I hope everybody online has enjoyed the conversation. I think there's a screen at the end. You can follow all the speakers on LinkedIn. And thank you for joining us for this fireside chat.
Thank you.
Thank you
It was a
for having
pleasure.
us.
Cheers. Thanks so
Cheers.
much.
Bye.